Have you ever watched someone like Chris Heroes and wonder, how do they always get level 9 by the first objective and they're a high level at the Rayquaza fight? The answer to that is what we're going to be covering in today's video. It's a guide to rotation, whether you're in the jungle or whether you're in the lane. Now, one thing that you must do when you are playing is always keep an eye on the time. One thing that's consistent is in Pokemon Unite is the time that the farm will spawn. You need to understand these timings so you can be at the right place at the right time. If you understand the timing, you can be rotating to the correct spot at the correct time, and you can be in the correct position to help your team win the game, right? Because that's why we play Pokemon Unite. We're not playing to lose, we're on ranked to climb. We're playing to get a win streak. Hopefully this video you're going to find very useful. I'm going to start with going through the jungle rotation guide, specifically spending a lot of time talking through the first 3 minutes. If you get the first 3 minutes right, you'll be able to snowball the game really well. Now get the pen and paper out because I'm going to be giving you a list of things and they are done in this order. You go to your jungle and you do the buffs straight away. Okay, you get this Xatu and you move on to the buffs. The reason you're doing the buffs first rather than the Baltoys is because they will spawn exactly 1 minute later. So if you do them sooner, they will spawn sooner and they're worth more experience, and they also give you some buff, right? That's why they're called buffs when you're in combat. So do those as soon as possible because you're trying to maximize the experience that you're gaining throughout the game. So buffs always go first. The next thing you've got is that 8-minute 50 gank. You go to a lane. Now, I think you don't want to spend very long at this lane if you're looking to do these rotations absolutely perfectly. But this will be a little bit dependent on the character. I have kind of changed my mind based on some of the feedback I got on one of my videos. I like to go to the lane that is winning and then help my losing lane get a little bit online after the mid farm. Okay? Understand that stacks take time away from your rotation, so you want to help your team win the lane. You get those 850 Bs and you don't overstay your welcome. You go straight back to that jungle because 1 minute later should be about 8 minutes 40, and that's when your buffs are up again. You don't want these buffs sitting around. You want to get these buffs quickly, snappy. As soon as they spawn, you are chewing them up. You want to get that experience as soon as possible. Now, depending on time, you'll probably be able to get these Baltoys, or maybe not, depending on what character you're using and how quickly they're able to farm. Something like Charizard's able to burn through this farm pretty quickly because the next thing you need to get to is the 8-minute mid farm. You need to be on time. If you're 3 seconds late and you're against good players, it's all gone. Right here, I'm there at 8 minutes on the dot, and the majority of it's gone by 7:50. 7:55, right? He's come in 7 seconds late. I took all of it. Every single scrap of it was mine. I took it all, right? And I even managed to get out safely. So after your mid farm, you rotate to a lane to help them win the 7-minute 20 Bs. There's a good chance you probably won't be at the 7-minute 20 Bs because you want to go back to your jungle and get those buffs because they're spawning a minute later. So it's now 7 minutes 30. So you're getting these buffs, and at this point, you're generally level 9. Okay, if you've done all of this correctly, you will be level 9 and you are rotating to that bottom lane at level 9 with the Unite move, ready to win the objective. Hopefully your team will rotate down, but honestly, if you're using something like a Charizard, you will probably be able to win the 4v3 with the Unite move up your sleeve. He can do incredible work, you can push them back, and then you want to focus the objectives. Here you can see having that Unite move was just absolutely amazing. It helps our team get a nice little overcap in the bottom goal, and I'm able to quickly work on this bottom objective, hitting me level 11 at about the 6-minute 30 mark, which is absolutely insane. Now, it's 6 minutes 30, which means that your buffs, it's been about a minute, the buffs are going to be back up. So you are rotating through your jungle going to the top lane, right? I knew that I had about, like 5 seconds So I went and got that Baltoy. You're pretty much just getting these 2 buffs. You're not wasting any more time. It's like buff, top lane. Okay, now if you've got an energy amp, like Charizard with an energy amp, by this time, you've almost got your Unite move again. Now this is really, really crucial. You do not die at this point. If you die, you are giving away your entire lead. You need to be able to snowball. So if you have a look, I X speed to get away. Right, I do not engage. Even though I probably could have picked up a kill, it would not have been good because I would have died for a kill. And, well, it would have been really bad, right? Because the team gets a lot of catch-up experience. So I engage here with my Unite move. And as you can see, it doesn't go as well. It doesn't go to plan, right? Their team's able to, you know, get away. The Dodrio uses his Unite move. Keep your eye on the time, right? There's no point staying here for 3 minutes for a useless fight. You've been there for a minute. You've tried your best. You've used your Unite move. Unfortunately, your team wasn't able to get a lot of value out of it. You can't stay there and waste time. It's been a minute. You go back to your buffs, right? There's not a bottom objective. This top objective is not worth you giving up 2 or 3 rotations of the buffs. It's just not. And as well as that, it's not worth staying up there and dying and giving back that experience. So go back through, do your jungle rotation, get your Unite move back up, and head back up to that top lane a little bit stronger. And hopefully your team's there, maybe they've got a Unite move, and you're able to win this objective, and you're able to win this lane. If you lose this objective, it's fine, because they can push that into your first tier, and you're able to get the extra farm that spawns on that top side of the map. That's really valuable extra farm. It's really, really nice. So, as you can see, they get the objective, but we are winning this out because I'm able to come up with a big experience lead, and we're able to kill them, right? In fact, my teammate gets a lot of the kill secures, so that's a lot of great experience for him, right? A lot of farm there. I have a look at the map. There's all this farm, there's all these bees in the top lane, and there's also the middle farm as well. And my buffs are pretty much spawning again, right? So what am I doing here? I'm rotating through these middle farm because that's contested farm. I want to take that off the enemy rather than going straight back to my buffs. I take the contested farm, and then I go back to my buffs here. Now, this might be an area for a little bit of disagreement, but the reason I've gone to my buffs here rather than going to that second bottom objective is because I'm having a look at the map and there's no sign of the enemy, and that will typically tell me one thing. If they're not at the bottom objective, they're looking to get value where they can. So they're kind of assuming that we're all at that bottom objective, so they see it as a time of being able to score in that top lane, or even score in the bottom lane. So always keep an eye on that, right? You can see here, I flamethrowed off that farm so I can get down here. I really wanted to Unite move that Dodrio, but I didn't quite get to it because I would have had it back, but now it's just a little bit too late. Okay, so after those first 2 objectives, it's pretty snowbally, right? Because although our team's behind on score, there's no need to panic, right? We've hit level 15, and it's 3-minute mark, right? So we've got a big experience lead, and we haven't died. We haven't given the enemy any of that experience back, so we've got a massive lead on them. Now, again, it's super important. If you've got these rotations down, you'll get your early lead, and if you play well, right? It's really important. Don't give that lead back. Okay, don't die. Don't give them the experience, because then you're devaluing all that hard work you did, all that amazing work you did to get the lead. You're giving it all back. So it's always safety first. Don't die. Don't give the enemy that win condition. Okay, because that's a win condition for them. Kill the overpowered Charizard and I'll get a big experience spike. So we want to make sure that we are not doing that. Now, you get to your Ray fight and pretty much the rotation's pretty simple. Wait for your tank to engage and see how you go. Make sure you're there. You shouldn't be off farming at this point. Right? So I'm poking bush, I know the Espeon's in there, I take a little bit of damage, but that's okay because I know I can engage with my Unite move. Right? So my tank engages, does a really good job, kind of picks off 1 kill, and I know at that point we're pretty successful. So I look to get that Dodrio because he's the one I wanted to get my Unite move off, and we're pretty good. We clean up from there, right? There is an Umbreon that goes off in the distance, but I'm not too concerned about the Umbreon. Because he will take a lot of time to kill. And as you've kind of gotten, the theme of this video is time is of the essence. And I've listened to the team there, they've called retreat. They didn't want me to rip that because they thought it was risky. And honestly, it was risky if I was doing it by myself. If I had the team there, probably the good decision. But we've listened to the team, they've made the call. We kite back and then we look to re-engage and win another fight. So you've got level 15, right? You've got a big experience lead. That means that you're going to be doing more damage to the enemy at this Ray fight. You're going to be able to, you're likely to get a lot of value, okay? We're able to pick off the Umbreon there. Look at that respawn timer. In this refight, if you're able to get these KOs, you pretty much just win the game, right? So we're able to clean up. We get a big KO streak there. We engage on them. They get weak, but again, being level 15, I was able to just clean up. Right, we're able to get the kills, which is really nice. And when we got the kills, we can secure the Rayquaza and we win the game. So your general rule of thumb is get an experience lead, do your rotations really well, and make sure you don't give that experience lead back to the enemy. Rewatch the start of this video if you need a little recap of how you need to do your early rotations. You're able to snowball the game. Guys, if you're getting some value out of this, I'd really appreciate it if you let me know, drop a comment, leave a like, even subscribe if you're new here, because I love giving content like this. I like teaching people how to play the game and make better decisions so you can climb in the solo queue and overall just improve the quality of lobby for everyone in the community. Because that's what makes the game really fun, is when we're able to have a good quality games consistently. Now, let's have a look at rotating if you are in the lane. Generally, this will be pretty similar if you're in the bottom lane. I think the top lane's a little bit more complicated because you need to rotate to that bottom objective. You should be rotating bottom unless something crazy happens, like your team loses the entire lane by the 7-minute 30 mark, which does happen, but generally that's pretty rare, and that is a topic for another video, which is how to play when you are losing, when you're playing from behind. Now, there's the same key piece of advice, which is keep your eye on the time and understand what you need to be doing. So your first focus is win the experience secures, right? Try and get their monkeys if you can, if it's safe, okay? Take the contested stuff, right? You want to get a lead, right? You want to get an experience lead. So that's your first thing. For that first minute of the game, it's a dance, right? Do not die. Okay, if you are stacking, do not die. You out-secure them. If you are going to die for a stack, you don't stack. Okay, now at these Bs, it's really dependent on where the jungler is. I like to just call watch out and poke a couple of bushes. I don't like to overcommit. So generally you get a feel if your jungler's not with you, you've got to play it relatively safely. So you can see I'm not even daring of overcommitting, and I've got my eject up my sleeve. So they get a little bit aggressive here, which is totally fine, right? You stand back and you defend the goal zone. If they go to take your farm, you let them take your farm, right? Don't let them kill you and take your farm. Okay, so just don't die, right? That's the simple thing. But you're just going to see how broken Umbreon is, and I'm really looking forward to this Pokemon getting a nerf. That thing like died 4 times, and it just kept surviving. So, but Umbreon is a topic for another video. So this gets you to kind of like this 8-minute 15 point. Now, any Baltoys that are still in your jungle area, they're up for grabs. Leave the buffs. Don't take any of the buffs. And you want to rotate to get to the middle by this 8-minute mark. As you can see, I'm about 4 seconds late, and guess what? I missed it all. I managed to get the big B. So up against some decent quality players there, if you're late, you're not going to get anything. So you've got to be very careful. Then you rotate back to your lane, and you play it smart. I generally, as a rule of thumb, when you are the laner, you've got a responsibility to protect the lane that you're looking after, whether it's the top lane or the bottom lane. Now, after the 7-minute mark, this is kind of dependent. You can rotate between top or bottom with where the objectives are and where the farm is and everything like that. But this is where, in the top lane, you've got to be a little bit smart, is this 7-minute 30 to 7-minute mark. You want to rotate to the bottom lane. Now, if you don't see anyone in the top lane, you rotate to the bottom lane, because if you don't see them, they've already rotated, so off you go. However, you don't want to let 2 enemies stay up there and take all the farm and stack. So if there's still 2 enemies up there, generally I think it's actually not a bad idea to protect the lane. Don't let them stack if they're looking to stack. But if it's just a tank up there by themselves, you rotate down bottom, okay? Because that's where the maximum value is going to be. Don't just try and out-secure a tank. If it's one person still up there, you rotate. If it's two people, generally I think it's a good idea to stay up there and don't let them get any of the free value. So you go there and you've got a couple of roles when you're trying to secure this objective. Zoning is a big one, and use your Unite moves to help getting the secure, right? I'm an Espeon. I can help zone, especially with the Unite move, and that's exactly what we managed to do there. So that's a big point, is never be scared to use your Unite move to help secure an objective. They're not purely for team fight. They're not purely for damage. They're for getting value. And if securing the objective gets the value, then use the Unite move to do no damage to the enemy or very little damage to the enemy to help zone them so your team can get the objective. Right? That's really important because the Unite move will give you value. So that's how you want to play your early game. Throughout the middle of the game, this is where it gets a little weird. Generally, if there is a first tier goal zone up, you can see that in the bottom lane, you want to keep that up, because if you've got that at the Rayquaza, you're going to have a very nice advantage. So there's no top objective here. We're kind of playing a little bit carelessly here. We're looking to get a little bit of score in. I'm honestly just hoping that my Zoroark can get some stacks in, which he does, and gets out safely. So I'm playing this just to support. It's probably a little suboptimal. I should be looking to defend the bottom or look to pester some of their farm rather than fight them on their second tier. But ultimately, you've got to play with your team. So that's what we do there. Again, Umbreon, very broken Pokemon, but you know, can't do everything and more. So now you can rotate to these objectives. Generally, the bottom objective is the way to go. I've already done a video covering the Regieleki and when it's going to give you value. Honestly, if they're pushing your goal zone, you just defend the goal zone. Okay, don't worry about the objective. Let them overpush, you can get some kills, and then you can move into secure. If the enemy team has got positioning and they're doing the objective, I actually think it's better to give up the objective and let them overcommit and try and push your goal zone. When they're fighting you on the goal zone, you have got the advantage. So it's really important to kind of remember that. You've got to be a little bit map aware. Okay, you don't want to give up all this value. You want to make sure that the goal zone will help you at the Rayquaza. So that's probably a nice little priority to take care of there. Right, you can see they're getting pretty keen to get some scores in, and I'm glad our team is responding really well to make sure that we keep this goal zone alive. Because at that Rayquaza, it is very nice to have this goal zone, as you're going to see in this Rayquaza fight. Again, what does your rotation look like? Just play with the team and wait for your tank to engage. If you're the tank, you engage, right? And you play to defend, okay? If you've got vision on them, that's great. Right, they've managed to break, but they have absolutely overcommitted to get that break in. Okay, they've had to use a couple unites there to try and escape, and they've overcommitted, which means that they're in a position where they're probably going to die. And seeing as they die, well, that pretty much means we get to win the game, right? We get to kill them and then go to the Rayquaza and win the video game, which is really nice. So you can see that's exactly what happens. The enemy overcommit. We're 5v3 here, so we look to do some damage to the Rayquaza. We look to bait the enemy in. As soon as we see the enemy, it's, you know, all eyes on them. And honestly, that Unite move, I should have ejected or tried to get a little bit close to that Pikachu to get the Unite move on him so he couldn't secure. But luckily it's a Pikachu and it doesn't really have a great secure outside of Electro Ball. So as a laner, keep your eye on the time. Early is important and look to defend your goal zones, but ultimately be at that bottom objective where you can get value. So there you have it. A couple of those key points that I want to reiterate is help try and win your lane, secure the farm where you can, get those bees, look for that mid farm, and make sure you're being sensible when you're rotating to the bottom lane. Okay, use your Unite move to help secure and look to push and zone the enemy. As a laner, it's always nice to watch your goal zone play defensively. And honestly, sometimes if your team is in a bad position, it's better to give up the objective and defend and let the enemy over push so you can kill them after they've got the objective, which generally happens a lot of the time in the solo and duo queue, rather than running in, dying, and then letting them secure the objective and letting them break your goal zone. So look to get value where you can, but hopefully you found this rotational guide to be useful and you can use it in your games.